So Nintendo is a company that has been around for a very long time. And well, when you've been around for a very long time, you tend to start celebrating anniversaries, whether it's for a certain console release or a certain franchise that is very popular. We've seen lots of franchises get celebrated, such as Mario, but you could argue that the Legend of Zelda franchise has made great strides in the past few years or so with games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom in terms of not only just sales of these games, but bringing Zelda to a more mainstream audience. These are by far the most successful Legend of Zelda games of all time in terms of sales for Nintendo, so they're obviously going to look at that when considering celebrating the 40th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda, because this year, 2026, marks the 40th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. What is time? Where has time gone? I don't know. But what I do know is that a lot of people are anticipating things happening for the Legend of Zelda franchise in 2026. And I want to talk about them in today's video and also talk about what I think is going to happen as well. But before we look at the current, we have to look at the past to kind of see what Nintendo has done for previous Legend of Zelda franchise celebrations that involve certain years of the franchise being on the marketplace. Now, we won't go back too far or anything like that. We'll start with like the 25th anniversary, because that's when Nintendo kind of really acknowledged all of these anniversaries that they had going on beyond just Mario. Mario was always kind of their standard go-to. But when you're taking a look at the 25th anniversary, which happened in 2011, I would say the big thing that happened was the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D. That came out for the Nintendo 3DS in June of 2011. And of course, they had a bundle system with that as well to showcase the game and get people excited for Ocarina of Time 3D. Now, there was some other stuff. They did stuff like on the website and all that sort of crap. They had making of videos and stuff as well. There were collectibles, but really the big thing for the 25th anniversary definitely had to be the 3DS. And then you look at the 30th anniversary, which was in 2016. Not a whole lot going on with that. They did some additional content for Hyrule Warriors, the first game. They did some merchandise as well in terms of amiibo and stuff like that. But it really wasn't as big of a celebration, probably because, well, I don't really know why. I guess they were gearing up towards the original Nintendo Switch. The Wii U wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire. The 3DS had kind of fallen off of a cliff. So there wasn't a whole bunch of stuff to celebrate. Then with the 35th anniversary, you had a game that, I don't know, people tie it into the Zelda 35th anniversary, that being Skyward Sword HD. And I guess you kind of could, but it's more so a fan association than a official Nintendo association with it. Of course, the main thing that Nintendo did was the Game and Watch system that came out for The Legend of Zelda, which, that was pretty cool. They also did some Joy-Cons and stuff like that. But the 35th didn't really feel like massive either. I would say the biggest celebration that they've done ever was indeed the 25th anniversary, but the 40th, you would think they're going to fire on all cylinders. But you kind of look at what they did with Super Mario's 40th anniversary, and I guess, maybe the movie was like the big thing about it, but like, I don't know, Galaxy 1 and 2, like, was that really the big thing for the gamer side of things? There were some limited clothing drops and stuff like that. Like, that's cool, but I don't care about that stuff. I'm here for the games. So looking at the 40th anniversary of Legend of Zelda and what people are expecting, one of the big things that has been talked about really time and time again is Ocarina of Time 4K, or like, a big special edition of Ocarina of Time, potentially for the Nintendo Switch 2. Maybe there would be a Switch 1 version of it as well, but most eyes would be on the Switch 2 version of it. And we've seen like all of these different Unreal Engine tech demos, like, oh, this is what it could look like. And people are like, wow, this looks so amazing. And like some of them look kind of cool, but some of them look a little bit disconnected. But a lot of people really feel like this is going to be the year. You know, the Ocarina of Time remake is real. It's going to happen this year. It's going to be Nintendo's big celebration for the Switch 2. And I don't really think so. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news. I just feel like Nintendo isn't going to do anything with that. It was surprising that they put it on the 3DS to begin with, but with the 3DS, it kind of made sense. There were N64 games such as like Star Fox 64 that got 3D versions for the system. It was low risk, high reward to bring these games over to the Nintendo 3DS because you had a dedicated handheld system where you didn't have to push the boundaries of graphics and stuff like that. Who would have been working on this title if it is going to come out in 2026? Like, obviously, you finished up Tears of the Kingdom in 2023 when that game released, but you would think that they would be focused on whatever the next Legend of Zelda game is going to be, more so than doing something with Ocarina of Time. To me, it feels like Ocarina of Time is almost on that level of like, A Link to the Past. Skyward Sword HD made sense because it was a Wii game. You upscale it, you put in a little bit more of a modern control, 60 frames per second. There you go. You don't have to really rebuild the game from the ground up. Whereas a game like Ocarina of Time, a game like A Link to the Past, you kind of do have to build it up from the ground up to keep up with the other games on the system. So if they're not going to do that, like what should you expect? And that's where things get interesting. Because I honestly think, and I could really see Nintendo doing this, I think you get Tears of the Kingdom and Wind Waker 2-pack. Much like we saw with Galaxy 1 and 2. And you could say, well, yes, Wind Waker is on NSO, but who cares? Like, that's for NSO people. Like, Wind Waker, HD, Twilight Princess HD. These games already exist. They already came out on the Wii U. You clean them up a little bit, you do a $70 2-pack, and I would say that's to me, a better value than what we got with Galaxy 1 and 2. Like, I don't know. The people are probably going to be mad at me saying that. Sorry. But in my opinion, like, those games are definitely a bit more robust, and I feel like they're different enough from one another to where, like, that would be a big deal. But I think that's what ends up happening. Or it could honestly be something as simple as, like, oh, well, here's Twilight Princess on the GameCube version on NSO. This is the big celebration. Which I think would piss a lot of people off, but, maybe you show a trailer for the next Legend of Zelda game, but I could see them doing that as well. And obviously, Twilight Princess is a great game and all of that sort of stuff, but like the GameCube version / the Wii version definitely has things that were fixed in the HD version of the game, such as when you got to get like the wolf tears and stuff like that. You have to get less wolf tears in the HD version of the game, which was, well, that was a welcome change to it. But I just feel like something massive as far as like a new game is concerned. I just don't think that's necessarily like really on the table for something like this. I don't think Nintendo is quite ready. Now, you could talk about an offshoot thing. We've seen stuff like Echoes of Wisdom and not A Link to the Past. Link's Awakening. God, I can't even think. Link's Awakening, got that chibi sort of art style that Echoes of Wisdom also have. Could you do something with like a smaller game? Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons. Maybe do something with Minish Cap. I could see those things potentially happening. I think a Minish Cap would be kind of cool, but then you get into the same conversation. Well, Minish Cap is already on. It's already on Game Boy Advance Online. But I just think a lot of people are working themselves up for something that I don't really see happening. This 4K Ocarina of Time thing, I feel like we've been talking about an Ocarina of Time HD for a very long time. And I just don't think it's necessarily going to happen. Like, yes, there will be clothing, maybe some concerts and stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know that I would ever be like really interested in going to like a video game music concert. Maybe it's one of those situations where it's like when you're there, it's like super fun or something like that. But like, I don't know. You know, I think it'll be a accumulation of smaller things, maybe leaning into NSO with stuff like Twilight Princess. Maybe at best you get this Wind Waker, Twilight Princess HD double pack or something like that, or even, you know, separate games released, hopefully at a budget price, because those games are only $50 on the Wii U. But I could see Nintendo charging like $70 a piece for them. And then they add in some amiibo crap as well. And then, you know, all this sort of stuff, re-release amiibo. I could see stuff like that happening. But as far as something massive is concerned, I just look to the 40th anniversary of Mario, and I point to that, and I'm like, if any franchise had a real chance of being like a big celebration for the 40th with like the next entry in the franchise with something like a brand new 3D Mario game, it would have been Mario. You know, how old is Odyssey at this point in time? That would have been the time to do it, but they didn't do it. We're still waiting for that next 3D Mario game, at least even just a glimpse of it or something like that. So I would just keep your expectations in line. You know, I think there'll be some cool stuff. I think there'll be some exciting stuff, but I don't think it's going to be this huge, massive thing, because a lot of video game companies don't seem to be able to operate on those times. Like, look at stuff with like God of War and stuff like that. Remember, everyone was anticipating a lot of God of War stuff to happen last year. I mean, Halo is getting Combat Evolved single player redone. Like, okay, I guess that's cool. I like Halo for multiplayer. I'm not really interested in the single player story, but hey, you know, people like different sorts of things. So those are my thoughts on The Legend of Zelda 40th anniversary. I think keep your expectations in check. Don't get too crazy. Don't expect all this insanity to happen with it. And I really don't think that Ocarina thing is going to happen. But other Nintendo YouTubers out there in the world, although I am not a Nintendo YouTuber, but other Nintendo YouTubers out there will tell you that it's going to happen, because look at this quote from Enuma back in 2022. He's hinting at it, folks. He's hinting at it. Or something. Anyways, guys, those are just my thoughts on this. Feel free, I should say, to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think is going to happen? What do you expect to happen? And really, what would you like to see happen? Because at the end of the day, right now, this is just sort of a, you know, throwing stuff at the wall, coming up with ideas, basing it on previous anniversaries that Nintendo has celebrated recently, and kind of trying to pick and choose like what direction you think you're going to go into. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit that bell notification as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.